In 1954, the first time that a nuclear submarine ever reached the lower depths, it awakened something. It awakened Comm Talk.
Captain, we have a proximity alert with the planet Geekery. We are approaching collision.
Quicks, get somebody on the comms, enter in the security code.
257. Security code accepted.
Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to part 1 of episode 20 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, the YouTube show from a couple of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. I am Dallas, and sadly, Celeste can't be with me today, but she does send her best wishes as we continue our journey in King of the Monsters Month. Today's episode is part 1 of our conversation on Godzilla from 2014 with our friends from Retro Rewind Podcast. Well, at least half of the team. You see, Retro Rewind Podcast is a podcast ran by our friends Francisco Ruiz and Paul Powers. And we're actually separating the team into 2 separate portions. And Paul's going to be with us next week. But this week we have Francisco and his bride, Christy Ruiz. And we're super excited to have them on with us today. Francisco and Christy are really great people, and I had so much fun talking with them the other day that we kind of lost track of time. And so our conversation went for 2 hours, and I personally cannot see myself putting up a 2-hour podcast without some breaks inside of it. So what we've done is we've actually separated the conversation to 2 separate podcasts. Today's episode, part 1, is the discussion of the things that we liked and didn't like about the movie Godzilla from 2014, and then tomorrow's episode that's coming out will be about the spiritual implications of the movie. So I want to encourage you guys to listen to both of these podcasts, enjoy, have fun, and communicate with us as it goes on. Obviously, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search for Geek Devotions on all the platforms that are out there. And also do me a favor, and 2 big favors I'm asking you guys to do. First off, look up Retro Rewind Podcast. They're on all the major podcast catchers. They're on YouTube. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. I believe to find them, you look for Retro Rewind Pod. Add them and let them know your thoughts on today's episode and tomorrow's episode. But also do me a favor and head over to iTunes. And I need you to look up 2 different podcasts on iTunes. Look up ours, Comm Talk by Geek Devotions, and then Retro Rewind Podcast. And rate and leave a review. These things, I know it seems ridiculous, but these things actually help to get our podcasts up off the ground. It helps to get the word out. It helps people to understand what we're about and encourages people to really listen to them. And of course, if you do this for us at Geek Devotions, you may earn yourself as the Devoted Geek of the Month. So that being said, take a listen to this podcast and don't forget to stick around so you can learn about some nifty threads that you can have in your closet tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow. Anyways, let's talk to our friends. All right, guys, and we are here with some very special guests, some people that I love and care for dearly because they're awesome. I have the Ruiz family with me.
It's Ruiz.
Ruiz, I am so
You've
sorry.
been saying it wrong forever.
I have.
It's the Reese's.
I have failed you. The Reese's?
Yes.
We are not the Reese's Pieces.
A little bit of chocolate, a little bit of peanut butter. It's all good.
Who is the peanut butter in this family? That's all I need to know.
I don't know. I'm
Me.
pretty sure.
I'm sticky. What?
You're sticky?
This is awkward.
I was going to say
Welcome
Francisco
to
was
the
a
podcast.
little nutty.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man, I love it.
I melt easily in the sunshine? I
Uh,
know.
guys,
This went askew on me quickly.
it's all good, man. Listeners, as you listen to this, you might notice that these guys are a little bit nutty, a little bit crazy, and that's why I love them. This is why they're friends of mine. Francisco is the host of Retro Rewind Podcast, and Christy is the strong, independent woman who's behind him, backing him up all the way and shining his head.
Shining. I'm shining
my
your head.
So,
I don't get enough ball jokes. That's so much for that.
that being said, Francisco is him and Paul Powers will be with us next week on Comm Talk. They do this really cool show called Retro Rewind Podcast, as I mentioned earlier. And what they do is they take a look at movies that are 15 years old or older, and they rate it as nostalgic, classic, or tragic. And I just have a curiosity for the two of you. What is the most tragic movie you've ever seen, or for the show, or just period in life? Wow.
Superman 2 or whatever we watched.
We watched Superman 3.
I don't even
though
know.
You rated it a classic.
I did.
Yes.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Probably because Superman himself is a classic.
Oh, yeah. I think you went the cultural relevance angle or
Yes,
something.
that was the beginning of the podcast anyway.
Yeah.
I changed my mind a lot. I don't know.
For me, I think the movie I had the least fun watching... Oh, there's that one. Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna say it. Then you made me think of it. Now I have to say it. And I get a ton of flack so it's tied with another movie.
Okay.
But the one I get the most flack for is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Boo.
Oh my gosh, it's not a movie.
No, it's not meant to be. It's just a bunch of things slammed together with duct tape.
Then put it on like straight to DVD. Or mark it as a comedy special on
It's not
Fathom
our
Events.
fault you can't understand British humor.
No, I get the IT crowd. I think the IT crowd is fabulous.
Okay, continue watching the IT crowd, then go back and watch Monty Python, and
No,
then maybe you'll like it.
I don't need to. I already watched it for the podcast. Don't need to put myself through that again. Anyway, I'll go with that. And
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait,
All
I
right.
want to know what the other one was.
I'm kind of curious too now, too.
okay, Beverly Hills Ninja. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
You covered that for Victims and Villains, I think.
Yeah, I did.
I never watched
Man, oh man.
Be glad.
it. Okay. What other ones did I not enjoy? I don't even remember.
I'd
I don't
have
think
to
I've
bring up
ever
your
rated
list.
anything a tragic.
I'm sure you have.
I don't think I have.
Well, while Dallas continues, I'll bring up the list for anyone who's curious.
Well, and now for something completely different. Today they're joining us. We're going to be talking about Godzilla from 2014. So, I personally really enjoy that movie. If I had to rate it, I don't know if I'd rate it as a classic, but I'd rate it as pretty good. So, how would you guys rate it using your rating system?
Just having watched it or before we watched it?
Just having watched it, how would you rate it now?
Classic.
Classic.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty close to classic too. I enjoyed it, and I'd want to watch it again. Yeah, I'd say classic.
Yeah, okay, sweet. I would agree with you guys on that. I mean, it was a really good movie, I thought.
Was this your first time watching it?
No, God, no. I've watched it a couple times.
Can I tell you how many times I've seen it?
Please do.
4. This is my 4th time
Well
watching
done.
it. And my first time watching it was my first time experiencing anything close to Godzilla or like
that's right.
Really?
big giant monster takes over. Unless you count Jurassic Park. I mean, I'm a big Jurassic Park fan.
There you go.
But I did like that one, the one where they brought it over to San Francisco or whatever. But
Right.
Lost World, yeah.
yeah, that one that everyone
San
hates.
Diego.
Was it San Diego?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
All right.
because that's where the wild animal park. People
Okay.
think San Diego.
Yeah.
All right.
I gotcha.
Anyway, I watched it on a plane back to it was a trip to India,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, cool. I wonder if I would like this. And I was
Right.
like on the edge of my seat the whole time when I watched it on the plane. I'm like, oh my god.
So even on a small screen, it
It was
worked for you.
good, yes,
Right.
on a small screen.
Well, while we're mentioning India, aren't you about to go back there? Like this week?
I am. Yes, I leave Thursday at
Right.
1:30. I have to be at the airport at 11:30.
Sweet. What are you doing over there?
Thursday the 19th. I am going over with a group of people from my church in partnership with Orphan Outreach. We are going to northeastern India. So there's not mainland India. Well, there is mainland India. It's gone.
There's no land.
There's mainland India, and then sticking off of a tiny piece of land that you may not have paid attention to before. And in that little section, there's a state called Mizoram, and we are going to the capital city, Aizawl, and there's a home for orphans who've been orphaned because of HIV.
Oh, wow.
About 30 of them, I think, give or take. 90% of them have HIV
Oh, man.
and had to take care of their parents while their parents were dying of HIV, and the government provides medication for them, but only when the virus count gets really, really high. So many of them have spent most of their life very sick and have horrific stories of abuse and neglect and these terrible, terrible stories because they still think that you can catch HIV by standing next to someone. So the lack of education means that they get abused and stuck out in the middle of nowhere and ignored, basically. We'll just wait for them to die. And this home is run by a gal named Lucy, who said that God chased her down like he chased Jonah down. And she takes care of all these kids like they're her own. They have like the schedule. They go to school. She's out in the community. They have a community program where they support kids who have either their parents or their kids have HIV, but they're still alive. So they support them with money, but also education. And like we go visit them when our teams go over just to say hi. Because over there in that remote part of India, white people are still like celebrities. So we're visiting like the sickest, poorest families and being like, these people are cool.
Right.
Like taking pictures with their kids and things like that. But the work we do at the home, we started about 4 years ago. We send a team every 6 months. And we just do a VBS style curriculum, but it's not like the Western thing where it's like at 8:30 we have to start and 9:05 it's snack time. It's a lot of let's just hold hands and sing and tickle each other and learn kung fu moves and run around and play soccer, and then we do some Bible stuff, and then we go and we play some guitar and we kick around the soccer ball somewhere. It's a lot of loving, basically, and treating these kids like they don't have a disease, because you have to try to get HIV. Like, literally be like, can I have your blood so that I can get your disease? Like,
you mean as a volunteer over there?
Yeah, I've had people ask.
To get it.
Yeah, I've had people ask, are you worried? And I'm like, no. Ultimately, if the worst thing happened and I did contract HIV, it would take an adjustment. But when you come back to the States, you're well taken care of, not like over there.
Right.
So we just do a lot of playing and loving and tickling and poking and put your arms in the air. They like to make you put your arms in the air so they can jam their fingers in your armpits really hard. We do lots of crafts and lots of games. We take them to a pool, like an outdoor lake/pool. It's just a lot of unconditional love, basically.
That's awesome.
It's really, really, really fun. And I feel like they're my family all the way across the other side of the world, and it's beautiful there. Orphan outreach. You too can go on a trip.
So what about orphans of kaiju attacks? What about them? Did you ever visit them?
One time a hamster pooped on me. I don't know what you're saying.
Kaiju hamster.
We're talking about Godzilla.
Kaiju hamster.
So
is that what his name is?
Kaiju is a type of very, very large, monstrous monster. That's
I thought his name was Godzilla.
That's his name. But.
Yes, but Godzilla is a kaiju. So, and the movie we're talking about today was actually kind of a reboot of it, and it was the second American reboot, because the first one, as Francisco and us discovered during the summer free. This is very difficult to get through.
Yes.
I heard that too. I think that's probably why I never watched it.
Did you watch it with us?
She might have blacked it out. It was too tragic.
In '98 with Matthew Broderick?
Ferris Bueller running away from a big lizard.
Wait, no. I feel like there were tiny little monsters running around.
Yeah,
that looked like dinosaurs.
They're the babies.
I did watch part of it.
Oh,
now I'm flashing back. That was... Oh, right. I made fun of it because it was pretending to be an iguana. But then it was pretending to be a dinosaur. It was like it came out right at the same time as Jurassic Park. So it was like, exactly. Anything you can do, I can do better or
only not. That's exactly
okay, I
right.
remember now.
That's exactly right. And so this is the kind of second reboot. So when going into it, people had some apprehensions about it. But I think between the three of us, we all discussed that we were all pretty happy with it. And so tell me, guys, like Francisco, we'll start with you. What did you like about it?
I really liked that. Well, I mean, something that throughout that I really enjoyed was the music. It felt very Japanese taiko drum-esque.
Yeah.
I love the heavy beats and the drums, and it wasn't. There weren't like my co-host Paul will say he doesn't like music that doesn't have themes Or at least that's how he comes
I
across.
thought of him while we were watching this movie because I was trying to think of that while I was listening, where the music was coming in and where it was coming from, and if it was overlapping in other areas and how they used the music. And I was like, Paul would hate this.
But I'm not a stickler for it. I need a theme that I can play in my car over and over again and know what's happening. I thought the music just really complimented the movie. It didn't overbear it. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was enough of its own thing, really. I mean, it might be good for like working out, but not as like, oh, this is Godzilla now that I'm listening to.
Right.
Yeah, I think I thought that as well. I thought that it drove the suspense along.
Yes.
And it was heavy. I liked the heaviness of it. I think it fit it well, and it also sort of shot it back to. It reminded me of something. I don't know, retro. Like a retro Asian movie might sound like they might throw these like really loud things in between, like no talking, and then they go to the talking and there's silence or there's nothing going on in the background or whatever. And I don't know why I liked him.
I mean, and you could probably inform us, Dallas, since you've seen a lot more Godzilla recently. I haven't seen any. I don't think either of us have seen the original ones from Japan. Is the music similar to that?
I think culturally it was similar, but it didn't have the iconic Godzilla theme song, which was actually quite.
There's a theme song?
Yeah, there's like this. I don't know if you call it a theme song, but there was a definite like. It was a
Godzilla
sound.
is here to save us. It's Godzilla, the mega monster.
Oh my god!
And that was the 70s, ladies and gentlemen. They were a special time. Yeah. So, but no, there was a definite Godzilla musical score when he would show up. It was dum dum dum, and
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And it was so. It's one of those things that's so iconic. Like you see people like you watch the movies and it'd be in the background when they were like ripping on Godzilla or something like that because it was harkens back to it. And I didn't hear that in any version of that really throughout this, and so it threw me off. But culturally, I feel like the sounds were pretty good, and I feel like it wasn't like it was very honoring of the culture because this is such a huge Japanese franchise. But it wasn't like. We're just gonna rip off all the Japanese stuff, and then like at the same time they didn't have like they didn't Americanize it and have like Drake singing a theme song or something for it.
I take it you didn't like The Great Gatsby then.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
Never mind.
So, but that was like back in the 1998 Godzilla. They had. I think not Aerosmith. A couple artists had done songs for it, and like they're the main.
I think I remember
songs.
that. At the end with the credits rolls and
sure.
And I was like,
I blocked it from my memory.
I don't understand.
It was kind of weird. So but yeah, I felt like the music. I agree with you guys. The music was really very honoring of the series. I feel like. So, Chrissy, what's something that stood out to you that you really enjoyed?
I'm not a big fan of long drawn out openings, like opening sequences. But as I was watching this one, I paid a little bit more attention to it. Normally, I'm like, blah, 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 get on with the movie. And I realized that they were giving you this really nice draw up to who Godzilla is or who he is in this movie and what they'd been dealing with. So they gave us an entire backstory with a bunch of old pictures and videos that may or may not be spliced together with stuff they made and stuff they had. And this sort of contentious relationship, and you got that right away in the beginning sequence, and I was like, oh, that was actually very smart because then you didn't have to do a lot of dialogue about him. You could just remember when we bombed that thing. Oh yeah, I saw that in the beginning. Like you just recall it, and then I thought that was sneaky but well done.
Yeah.
Also the music, with
right. Absolutely, I'd agree to that. I thought that was really pretty interesting when I first watched it. I was wondering if they're going to try to do a full reboot when I first watched it, as far as like, all right, 1954 never happened, or if this was going to be a continuation story. And at first, I thought it was going to be a continuation story, but then like some of the stuff they were putting up was like that didn't happen in 1954's version, so I got confused. But I appreciated what they did because it did set such a nice base level for the story of itself.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, to that point, I'll just say
I have a note here that I don't understand.
I didn't.
I'm all like, what?
I thought the intro went on a little long, and when it started, like, oh, here we go with the credit sequence at the beginning. Can't we just get to the movie? There was that. Though I did like the style they went with, where they're redacting a bunch of stuff and showing the who the main casting director was, or who the main director, or who the production designer was. I really liked that, how they did that. I thought that was very clever and very keeping with the tone they were going for. I just don't necessarily feel like it was needed. That I don't know. I agree. I get what you're saying, Christy, that it sort of gives us visual cues that we can recall later on. I just don't know if it saved that much time, though, if you could just get right into the movie. But
well, it gave us a relationship that Serizawa had with the monster. I think
without the intro, we wouldn't have a base understanding of Monarch. We wouldn't have a base understanding of the fact that they, the events that took place in 54, because that's when they set that set up was in 54.
But he talks about him in the film,
right?
So I don't know if we really need.
So I don't know. I'm curious now to go ahead and like skip that first part on the Blu-ray and watch the movie through and see if it feels like it's as full of a story as not.
Well, that'd be hard because you know what's going on already. So you'd have to actually do that. You'd need a control group and an actual set of people that have never seen this before.
Right.
And you do that with another set who've never seen it before, and you keep the intro. So you go do that, Dallas.
I'll get back to you. I'll report back to you.
Okay, good.
In like, I think another, 14 years when it'll be qualify for your show.
Oh, gosh. That's true. I liked the slow build to the monsters and all the conspiracy that went along with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was really well done. It wasn't so slow that it made you go, what? And the conspiracy stuff wasn't. That's an official term. Don't worry, guys. It was a dry heave. I'm just kidding. And the conspiracy stuff wasn't annoying. It felt frantic, and you knew when the music with that, you knew something was coming.
Yeah.
And you were obviously the movie's named Godzilla, so
right.
Wait, what?
Pretty special if you think like a mouse is going to come on screen. Right. It's Psycho the mouse. Anyway, I don't know what just happened there, but yeah, the slow build was I thought it was really well
and
done.
I feel like it was paid off really well when they revealed that first Mutu. I was like, wow, this is being done. Muto, excuse me.
Yes.
I felt like it was done so well. This thing that just is starting to wake up, and like they're trying to kill it, but it's not working. Then they're trying to contain it, and all that. It's pulling down all these cranes, and I thought it was done so well, and it was a good payoff for having to wait the amount of time you had to wait.
And that's actually something that I liked, and it sounds like you guys liked it too, but it was one of those things that several people I know had issues with was the
they're
payoff.
wrong, so.
Well, okay, there you go. But a lot of people had issues with the payoff as far as, like, they feel like Godzilla wasn't on the screen enough times, or you didn't see him till too much later, and so that was a big complaint for a lot of people with this film. I personally enjoyed it.
Sorry. I could see why people would say that if they were hoping for a traditional like Godzilla, I smash everything, bye bye.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie also had a lot of human element, and then the story between the father and son that the running throughout, and the relationship that Watson Butsum had with the guy, the dude, the army man. Was he in the army? Navy? I don't know. So sorry to all those who serve. I don't mean offense. I'm just naive.
The Admiral?
No.
Ford.
Yes,
Ford. Was in the Navy.
In the Navy. Anyway, the relationship he had with God.
Navy. I was thinking the same thing. This is why you guys are my friends.
Yes. The relationship he had with Godzilla, too. Like, I think that it was a little bit more human driven than you didn't notice that.
No.
I was saying, come on, that was like really obvious.
I didn't really get a relationship between Ford and Godzilla.
They were both trying to save Okay, I have an argument against Godzilla actually, quote, trying to save. I feel like he was a monster in his own right and destroyed just enough. But
Ooh, that'll be an interesting conversation later, I bet.
But I feel like they humanized him by connecting him to Ford. Whenever he goes, whenever he passes out, and they look at each other in the dark, and they have the eye line, and they sort of like, if they could fist bump, they would have. Like, we got this man.
I just imagine that fist bump, and Ford just flies all the way back to
like there was that similar parallel, like parallel line of.
I can see that.
Because there was at the ending, they were like, it was like you could tell they were both just done.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't. Now that you're mentioning that, I can retroactively see that. That wasn't on my mind as I watched this time. Mm-hmm. But regarding the comment of, well, we didn't see enough Godzilla, I'm pretty much, I feel like you see him as much as you need to see him for the story that they're telling. Yeah. I agree with you, Chrissy. If that this wasn't just a watch watch Godzilla smash a bunch of stuff and look at the pretty destructiveness of it. It's I mean, it is a disaster movie in a way. It's definitely more of a westernized disaster movie, though, I'd say, akin to Independence Day or movies like that. Not like the 1998 Godzilla, but I mean, in terms of there's a lot of human drama and human elements, and you're mainly following a human character. Now, Dallas, again, educate me. In some of the original Godzillas, are you following a human protagonist for most of it, or is it mainly Godzilla that you're watching?
Yes and no, depending on which Godzilla it is that you've been watching. In the early ones, like the first one, you're following basically 4 people. There's a young lady, and she's kind of caught in this love triangle. She is like engaged to marry this one scientist,
but really loves Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly.
King Kong, what? I mean, Godzilla.
It was like the B movie, only bigger. And so,
oh god.
No, it was. She was in love with another guy who was like a fisherman or something like that. I can't remember exactly what his job was now, but so she was caught in this love triangle because she loved him and he loved her, but her dad had already promised her to this other guy, who he kind of knew. He knew what the situation was. But he's the one that had created the oxygen destroyer, which was the device that killed the first Godzilla.
Okay.
And he actually sacrificed himself to spoilers to save everybody, and he knew it. But that was also the whole political sphere of the thing, was a matter of the responsibility of the creator to their devices. And so he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to use his device. He didn't want the world to know about it, because he was afraid that once he used it to kill Godzilla, that the government would take it and use it for worse things. Mm-hmm. So taking that mindset to keep it from happening, he destroyed himself along with it. And again, it was the whole political aspect of, because remember, this is 1954, so we're just barely removed from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that political underplay of, the nuclear fallout, people still suffering from radiation poisoning, the American occupation of Japan, all that plays into the first one. And so that it is a very human story, and Godzilla was representative really of several elements of the American occupation, but also just the devastation of there's this massive force of nature dash monstrosity was caused by man. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's one of the things I liked about this particular movie, is there was enough elements that were very similar to the first one, but still very its own situation, its own story altogether at the same time. Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was a nice introduction for me to Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would watch original ones now and not make fun of them so much, because
you can still make fun of them.
Well, yes.
Well, I was just going to go on to something else I really enjoyed about this movie was the cinematography. Mm-hmm. I thought from small elements to larger elements, a couple I'll highlight. When Ford just flew into Japan pretty much to get his dad out of jail, and they're back at his dad's apartment, and his dad is talking about how he can't just let it go. He feels like his wife is still out there, and he's looking into glass, and you see his reflection in the glass. You don't really see him because he's facing away from the camera, but his reflection is in the glass. as he's talking about his wife, it's like, wow, this is exactly how he saw his wife, through glass. And I loved how they set up the shot to mirror that memory and in a very visual way. So there's that. And then later on, pretty much toward the end of the movie, where you just see the Ford and the other paratroopers falling from sunlight.
That was one of my
through
favorites. One of my favorite
Oh.
scenes was
The
that.
halo drop.
Yeah.
That was phenomenally
So
done.
beautiful,
And I was
yeah.
like, I felt like I was like, oh, wait, I can't, I don't know how they're doing this. Does this really happen?
Yeah.
There's skyscrapers down there.
And
I remember what I was going to say now.
Go for it.
Well, I'm talking about just the carnage.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this movie did carnage really well in a way to connect to your heart. Do you remember the newer
Man of Steel.
Yes.
Yes.
Where he just destroys everything and no one speaks of it. As though, well, that's right, we'll sweep it up with a dustpan, Superman. It's okay.
Apparently, they do speak to it in Batman versus Superman, or Superman versus Batman. What's it called?
Batman goes, Superman, you're dumb, man. You just
We
destroyed
haven't
the
seen
city.
that, so
You have it?
No.
Okay.
I'm
Side-
not really on board with Ben Affleck as Batman, so
Right.
I need to spend a while warming up to that because
Absolutely.
Christian Bale and I were like,
If you watch it, watch the director's cut. Don't
Okay.
watch the theatrical.
do I look like I have 3 hours of just extra time that I don't have things to do, Dallas? Is that what I look like?
yes,
You look like somebody that likes a story that makes sense.
fair.
And I can't find any other stories that make sense other than BVS.
If you're gonna watch BVS, man, you gotta watch the director's cut if you want to make sense.
Anyway, back to my point. As I was watching things be destroyed, I was getting upset about it, and I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot, and I was like, "Are there people in that building? What about that building? Are there people in that building?" And I felt I could feel myself getting caught up in that aspect. And I was like, "Don't think about that. That's not real." But there was that tug and that tension of, oh man, watch out, there's a building, oh my god, now he's running into another building, and now and I felt like it was, I don't know, I thought that was really done, and really well done, and I appreciated the sadness, I guess. Because, yeah, or like when the subway tunnel collapsed, did Godzilla do that? Do you like, or one of them?
Yeah, I think it's them just fighting over top. Yeah, that.
And
that
it collapsed the subway tunnel, and you're like, oh wait, hang on, that's the lady we wanted
His
her.
wife's in there. Yeah.
What? Hang on. Things like that. I don't know. I thought
I agree with you, though. I wonder if it would have had more of an emotional impact if one of the key people we cared about did end up dying.
Yeah, I thought
Doesn't
about.
I mean, his dad died, but that was early on, and
That
I thought
was
about that.
super early on.
But I think that this movie was designed to wrap up nicely.
yeah,
And I knew that, like, I remembered that going in, that if that were to, quote, be a negative, it would be, well, it wraps up too nicely. I can see
Yeah.
some people saying, well, where's the uncomfortableness at the end? But I don't really need another Braveheart right now. I felt like it ended nicely.
Though something that really did bother me is that it just seems like Ford is way too lucky to constantly, no matter where he ends up, he's a step closer to San Francisco, to his family. It's like,
Right.
how is this even possible?
Suspended disbelief?
There was,
yeah,
those
pretty
that
much.
was one element of suspended disbelief where it's like, all right, he just happens to be the son of the dude who did everything. He just so happens to be in Hawaii when everything goes down. And he just so happens to be, it's like there was this suspended disbelief going, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you just have to let it happen.
I don't have to,
he's
but I
like-
chose
But he's
to.
like Godzilla. He's the hero.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
So,
Um,
well, since
but-
we started that train,
Oh,
what's
yeah,
some
go
stuff
for
we didn't discuss? What's some stuff we didn't necessarily like about it? Or we're like,
I was going to go back to
this.
something about Ford that I did like. But,
Okay, we'll do that real quick, and then we'll do the
All
stuff
right,
we dislike.
all right. Because I like jumbling you up there, Dallas. You know what? I like that he wasn't trying to, even though he did seem to get really lucky in all these situations. I feel like he wasn't really trying to be the hero. He just wanted to get home. He's
Right.
not trying to try to fight the Mudo or Godzilla or anything like that. He just wants to get back to his family. Okay, that's all he wants to do. Just get me home.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. But even in the midst of, like, when he's in Hawaii and that boy's got separated from his parents, he's willing to help. and when they need someone to dismantle the bomb, he's willing to do it. He's not like, no, peace out, guys. I'm in the city I need to be in. See ya. But yeah, that wasn't his aspiration throughout the whole thing.
Right. I have one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
One more like. Well, I many more likes, but you were talking about
Yes, I was talking about that very thing.
Do you hate it when your brain and your mouth stop working in unison?
Yes.
You were talking about cinematography earlier, and I forgot to mention that I giggled at the shot of the chameleon as it panned up over into the shot of the Muto, and I was like, well done. Yeah. Well played. Because Godzilla is supposed to be like a lizardy thing. And I was like, giant little chameleon, giant Muto. I was after the fourth time of watching it, I'm like, hey, look, it's a tiny lizard compared to the really big lizards. / moth / bug / beetle things.
Yeah. Right. I'd say they're more beetle-ish.
Spiders and without I don't know what they are.
I'm kind of going with
beetles.
What are the praying mantis?
Oh yeah,
it did kind of a praying mantis.
Okay, we can talk about things we don't like now.
No, I don't like those praying mantis. Mutos. Are you sure it's Muto?
That's what he said the entire movie.
He said Muto. He said Muto quite often.
Muto.
Massive unidentified terrestrial object. All right, fine, guys. Yeah. Be right.
I didn't like that they didn't change it when he started flying. I was like, look, you should change the name.
Also, do these monsters have names?
Muto.
I know. Mutos, yeah.
I know, but do they have like
Mothra or some of the
Jira or whatever?
No, I'm trying to think of what the 3-head thing is called.
A
huge rabid dog.
God, that sounds terrifying.
The guys from Kaiju Vision just talked they left a comment on our page and they mentioned him, and what was his name? King Ghidorah, King something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, Kong. Yeah. So they did have Godzilla fight King Kong though once. So it was interesting. So and that's actually the basis for the 2019 movie, I think.
Yeah, they are going to do versus.
Oh, King Kong was good too.
Mm-hmm.
You saw King Kong?
You haven't seen King Kong? I thought we watched it together.
You think I watch all these movies with you?
I have seen King Kong, and it was good. You should watch it.
Which King Kong?
The one with
Skull
Andy Serkis.
Island.
Okay.
Andy Serkis.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Ooh, I think that it was fantastic.
I need to watch it. I hear great things about it.
Yeah, again, another intro to the giant monster. I never actually saw any other. Only people.
You've never seen any of the other King Kongs?
Only people.
You saw the Pierre Jackson King Kong. We watched that together.
I'm sorry.
What? Is that the one I watched with Andy Serkis?
No, this is the 3-hour one. Yes, it has Andy Serkis. Wait,
as the gorilla.
Isn't Andy Serkis in the new one?
The face of the I thought he was in. I thought this was. I thought we were talking about the same one.
No. Oh no. The one with. You're talking about the one that happens where it's in the 30s or something with pianist guy.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. That's an older one. There's a newer one.
Wasn't Andy Serkis the face of that one?
I don't think so. Not this newer one.
I've seen the one where he's the face.
Okay, yeah, that's the older Pierre Jackson one.
But he's not the new one.
I don't think, unless he. I don't think he is actually.
I thought he was. Because I heard. All right. Maybe it was an old Graham Norton. My bad. Sorry, I watch Graham Norton sometimes.
What?
IMDb.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Let's see here. Tom Hiddleston, Samuel Jackson, Brie Larson.
Fine. Beat me to the punch there, Dallas.
I have my phone out.
No,
here.
I haven't seen the 2017 one.
That's the one we're talking about.
Oh no, I haven't seen Skull Island, but I thought Andy
that's
Serkis
the one.
Was the face of him.
That's the one they're using to help launch the new Monster Universe, which I'm a bit weary of, to be honest. And so that's I think that's one of my complaints is I feel like
Monster Universe.
Yeah, they're doing a Monster Universe.
There's the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe, the Universal Monster Universe.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's one of those Batman's bad guys, the Arkham Asylum people.
Well, that's part of the DC Universe. Yeah.
So, but that was one of my complaints is that they're trying to do that, and of course this is hindsight. Now that we're several years removed from the movie, I didn't see anything that led to the suggestion that this might even be a thing. I feel like that this. And I haven't seen Kong Skull Island yet, but I feel like it was an afterthought. They're like, oh, hey, we got this Godzilla movie. We just did a big ape movie. Hey, let's put them together. Quick, put a teaser at the end of the movie.
Oh. Why do they have to put all the main characters together and pretend that they need to fight? I don't understand.
Well, because Marvel's made so many bucket loads of money from it. It's like, we'll just do that and it'll work for us, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not that simple.
Anyway,
something else I didn't like was so Joe, the dad. There's a couple things. First off, I get that you want to see your wife so badly run up, but he waits so long till that cloud of radioactivity is pretty much upon him to close that door. What if it's a slow moving door? I mean, has he tested this door before? Probably not. I imagine you don't just close these willy nilly because you want to see how fast they close. I mean, I would think things like that close fairly slow. No, he's really lucky that it closed so fast.
Right.
And then when him and Ford are in the quarantine zone and he has his Geiger counter and it's reading 0 and it's like, oh well, you know what, I'm just gonna take my mask off, and he takes this big breath of air and he's like, oh, it's clean. But I googled it, you can't smell radioactivity, so
no, but you would feel it. But then don't you feel radioactive
I don't think that quickly.
I think it depends on the level of radiation.
Radiation, that's the word I was looking for.
But the way he acted, it's almost like he can tell with the way the air is, and you can't. As far as Google tells me. I mean, I'm not a scientist by any means, but
Dr. Google says it's
WebMD said that you can't smell radioactivity.
It doesn't seem like he was smelling. He seemed like that kind of a character, like over reactive and hyperbolic and on edge and conspiracy theory and like what do people do when they get off like aliens in the planet and they step out there and they go, I can breathe. Well, what? How do you know it's not poisonous and then you're going to die in 5 minutes? Like,
that's a great point.
You could have that question too, but it seems like a natural human reaction.
Right.
Sure. Okay. That's just something that stuck out to me that I didn't like, though.
I can see
I
that.
get your point.
I don't care. Doesn't bother me.
Well, what did bother you, Christy?
One thing bothered me.
Oh, yeah?
One thing? City Slickers?
What? No, I thought that movie was funny.
Just that they say one thing in that.
Oh.
Curly says one thing.
Okay.
I'm making a joke. These are the jokes, people.
Okay. No, that it wasn't until near the end of the movie that the admiral actually checks in, quote, end quote, with the president. I was like, who's this guy? Why does he think he runs the world? He's all like bossing everybody around from this giant carrier out in the middle of the ocean. And I'm assuming he did get some orders somewhere, but you don't, it's not like the president said, I had full control, all of you will listen to me. But like giant werewolf actor guy, like,
Werewolf actor guy.
yeah, the big black man. He's
the sergeant.
Yep.
At the end where he's like he pulls in Ford.
The big
I don't remember.
massive,
Okay, go ahead.
the werewolf on Underworld. Anyway,
Okay.
Sorry, that's all I remember him from is because he's giant. But they just order all these people around and all these boats and all this weapons and all these other like military people, and I don't know. I was like, wait. I'm all sitting there. I stopped writing because I was like, oh, this maybe I can't write. I'm just like, okay, something's gonna happen. I mean, I knew what was gonna happen, but I was still like, oh my god, get the bus off the bridge, get the bus off the bridge. Yeah, stuff like that. But then I turned to Francisco and I was like, hang on. This guy has not said anything to the president this whole movie. Who does he think he is? Why is he just like, I'm the boss, all of you listen? Is he the admiral or just a admiral? He's like, I've got the biggest ship. I'm in charge. Like,
It's probably just like saying, we're here to preserve democracy, not to practice it.
Right.
I just watched Crimson Tide. Yo.
oh, jeez. Why do you have to say the quote from, or the tagline to the quote of the movie that you were saying, like, weird?
What?
Yo.
Oh,
Yo.
why did I have to say yo?
I just watched
Because
Crimson Tide, yo.
This is the admiral saying it.
Or
Not
that-
that he would say yo, but
Fire on the Muto, yo. Give it all you got, yo.
He used to be a pirate, and he's leaving out the yo-ho.
Yar.
He's catching some.
He's all like, "Thank you, Mr. President." Yo ho. Okay, bye bye.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And then he constantly mutters, "Why is all the rum gone?"
We actually talked about the fact that a buddy of mine and I were talking about the fact that the president wasn't seen to be there, and we wondered if it was because the script writing process happened prior to 2012, and so they're like, we don't want to program a president and it be awkward because it's like, oh, Mr. Obama didn't get the presidency or something like that.
Huh.
Well,
I don't know if people really. I mean, I'm sure people can get upset about the littlest thing, but it's like
sorry.
I was going to say so many TV shows and movies cast in different times or future times, just presidents, and we don't know what race they are. I mean, I think 24 got a little lucky that they happened to have a black president in their role. I'm like, oh, look, it happened.
Right? So.
But I think he could have still said something like, these orders come down from the White House, or...
Right.
Or
oh sure, yeah.
In order, or some way we know that he is the admiral from the war room or whatever, and he's the one that the president sent after they had a long meeting about the fact that giant animals were trying to take out the Philippines, Hawaii, and San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
The chain of command is one of the things that bothered me too, because even at the front end, it's like, why is Monarch running everything? Like, everyone seems to be okay with Monarch just being there and making decisions, and we don't really get a subtext of like, okay, does the government know you're doing this? Because there seemed to be a time where in the movie where it's like they didn't know anything about Monarch. Like, we don't really sure what you guys have been doing for the last 50 years, but hey, we're here to take over.
Where did they get their funding? Also,
that's what I'm saying.
What's the guy from Jurassic Park?
Oh.
Because that opening scene with the helicopter, I was like,
Mr. Hammond.
Because it looked just like that. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess it's cool. It's a big monster movie. Those are big.
Spare no expense.
That's it. Oh man, that's awesome.
I did very much enjoy Ken Watanabe though.
Yes.
I thought he was fantastic. Especially, I just want to hear him say Gojira over and over again. I was all like, oh, that's how you say it. Say it again. You sound so Asian. No offense. It just sounds so proper. It's just so cool.
Right. Oh,
I'd totally watch it again.
Yes. So, Cisco, anything else that you didn't like?
You let him call you that?
Yeah, they're a select few.
What? You're so special, Dallas. You have no idea.
Doesn't mean I like it. I just let it happen.
Sorry, man.
That's fun to say.
It's habit now.
Gosh. So I think the cast needed to be a little bigger.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's mocking. Just like because I feel like the credits, half of it was a cast. I'm like, oh my word!
All the puppeteers for Godzilla.
Too many people. They actually built that Godzilla suit, and people moved it.
God, Godzilla was so amazing.
He was
the way they
redesigned it.
I loved him so much, so much, and I loved his sounds, and I love the Mudo sounds, and I love how there was a moment where I was like, "Oh, the Mudos are in love," and then I'm like, "Stupid Mudos, stop being in love, Mudos."
Oh, actually, you know what? That reminds me, and I thought of a way of why maybe this works. But so if the Mudos are parasites that they found inside another Godzilla type creature, then how is it that they're all of a sudden out in the open, not laying eggs in a Godzilla-like creature? They're
that was what was implied?
Yeah. I feel like I listened to something else somewhere else where they talked about that. I
thought that they were just parasites like bugs or, outside annoying me. Like, that's a parasite, not like a symbiont. Like,
not like a tick or a tapeworm or something like that.
Nothing inside. Well, tick doesn't go all the way inside.
Well, okay. Well, that's why I went to tapeworm. Sorry.
La, 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 la.
But yeah,
speaking of parasites, I had to kill a giant spider in the middle of my jamboree class today because that's what the teacher does.
Spiders aren't parasites.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm like. Are we using the word like literally a parasite?
Yeah,
as
yeah.
in a
They call them
tapeworm?
parasites. They said they were parasites that were inside the body of the old Godzilla.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, why are y'all?
They evolved because of the radiation that the world puts off.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think they probably are a parasite inside Godzilla because Godzillas are radioactive, so they're feeding off that radioactivity. But in this case, they had a missile to leach radioactivity off of, so that's why they're able to do it. That was my out in the logic, but I just thought that was a little odd.
That was something, and I think that is probably the only way to explain that. Is that it was the missiles and the fact that the female Muda was basically, in a nuclear buffet
Yes.
for 14 years.
That's true.
Let's
Let's get back to how amazing Godzilla was when he ripped open the mouth
All
of
those
that Mudo,
puppeteers.
and he jammed the laser beam inside him.
Yeah.
I would be
Winch.
remiss if I didn't share this story for Celeste. That is one of Celeste's favorite scenes because when we first watched it, all right, rewind. When we first watched it, we were actually on a road trip to Carthage, Texas, to buy coffee, and
Just can't get coffee at home. You gotta drive to
Apparently,
Carthage.
it's good.
it is the HEB coffee. HEB,
I've heard of HEB coffee.
HEB. If you want to sponsor
I have not.
Comm Talk, HEB. If you want to sponsor Comm Talk, contact us at geekdevotions@gmail.com. But anyways, we were on our way there, and so we had it on my iPad, and we were listening to it as we drove, and she was trying to watch it, but the sun was real bright. So we got to that scene. She's like, she saw that something happened. She's like, all right, I got to close this. Wait till we get home. We'll watch it at the house. So we watched it, and it tripped her out. She goes, it looks like he's like going, dude, your breath stinks. Take some Listerine.
So good.
We're wondering why Listerine hasn't taken this and made it into a commercial like, breath stink. Rah!
So I think
That would be awesome.
Godzilla's my favorite part of this movie, and I like that he's supposed to be the good guy, but he's also as terrible as the Mudos. Like he's terrible and wonderful, and he's just as destructive as the Mudos. He doesn't care what he's doing when he's fighting them and who he's knocking over and who he's killing, but he's also supposed to be the good guy. And I was like, he's just as terrible as the Mudos. The only thing he's trying not to do is overpopulate the world with himself. It's all like, I'm a lonely old bachelor. My lady died from these parasites. Die, winches. You killed my woman.
Is that? Oh, that's. I didn't realize that's what the implication
He came
was.
back. He came back.
Oh, God.
Killed.
So it's a revenge movie. That's
Yeah.
what Godzilla is. Okay.
Old man Godzilla had to get his revenge. He's sad and lonely. Go back to the depths of the ocean. Also, does it freak you out to think that something that big could live in the ocean? It does me.
Well, that's
And
the
I
thing
think
about.
it's amazing.
We haven't even hit the bottom of the ocean floor in some areas.
I know. And people say Nessie doesn't exist. Like, you don't know. Have you been down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench?
Yes.
Wow, you're very three-dimensional. Pretty sure you would have been crushed to a tiny, tiny little pebble.
I came back.
You got better.
Oh,
Don't worry, we're getting it.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Francisco and Christy. I know I enjoyed talking with them. It was a lot of fun. Again, like I said, tomorrow we'll have the rest of this episode where we're going to be discussing some of the spiritual implications that we got out of Godzilla from 2014. That being said, speaking of kaijus and monsters and stuff like that, I encourage you guys, head over to redbubble.com and check out Celeste and I's t-shirts. It's I believe on the website it's called Kawaii Kaiju Wants a Taco. Just type in Geek Devotions. It pops up right away. And what it is, it's a cute little adorable kaiju, little monster that I drew. And he's asking for a taco. You can have it in Japanese or English. Take your pick. And I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing right now. Well, at least what I'm going to do. You see, here locally in Shreveport, we have this wonderful place, a lovely establishment some of you may be familiar with, called Taco Bueno. And this is not an endorsement for Taco Bueno. They're not paying me to do this. I just love Taco Bueno. And this is what's going to happen, guys. Here in about a month or two, they're opening those doors. And on the day they open those doors, I'm going to pull out my Kaiju Wants a Taco t-shirt. I'm going to go down to Taco Bueno and I'm going to order myself a Bob. Why? Because I love a Bob. What's a Bob? It's a big old burrito. That's what it's called. No kidding. And, why am I doing that? Because I can, and I love tacos, and so do Kaiju. So, get yourself a Kaiju Wants a Taco t-shirt, go to redbubble.com, search for Geek Devotions, and it pops up right there. That being said, thanks so much for taking time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you love this episode, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, leave a review. It's all very much appreciated. So until next Sunday, well, at least until tomorrow's podcast, stay devoted, peace, and love.